Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With FishingBooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. FishingBooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to FishingBooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.
Welcome to DSC's Campfires with Larry Weishuhn, a unique blend of hunting, fishing, wildlife conservation, and the outdoor lifestyle. DSC's Campfires is brought to you by DSC, Conservation, Education, and Advocacy. Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable. Taurus, award-winning revolvers and pistols. Stealth Vision, high-tech, precision-driven equipment for today's modern hunter. Red 55 Winery, signature wines from Emmy Award-winning country artist Miranda Lambert, owned by Rick and Beverly Lambert. And the Choctaw Hunting Lodge, home of some of the finest hunting in North America. Now, here's Larry.
Randy Flannery, welcome home to Texas.
Well, thank you very much. I absolutely love being here. Sharon and I look forward every single time. When we leave Texas, we're planning our next trip.
Now, I want to talk to you about a bunch of different things. We were teasingly talking a little bit off camera here, kind of thing, if you will, but you have just completed, and what I said was 27 years worth of seminars in about the last 3 or 4 months. My gracious, Randy, how do you do that? How do you continually stay up to visit with all the folks? And of course, you're spreading tremendous amount of great stories and knowledge in your talks, but how do you remain focused, and how do you remain awake through some of all that traveling you're doing?
Well, Larry, I guess you get used to it, and I'll be honest, I've been turning down, if I agreed to do every seminar I was asked to do, or every sportsman show I was asked to do seminars at, I could literally do it year round. And I try to, when I'm on the sportsman show seminar circuit, I try to condense all my seminars in that 4-month period, just to be fair. But you're right. It feels like 27 years in 4 months.
I'm sure. I mean, I've done the seminar circuit. I've never quite tried to even come close to doing what you do, but I can remember numerous times being in a town somewhere, I'd have to leave the light on in the bathroom because I'd be in a hotel room, and I would wake up and not know where I am, and kind of look around and you realize, well, you're not at home, and thankfully I'd left the bathroom light on so I could find the bathroom kind of thing when I needed to. So I know you've got to experience a little of that kind of thing as well, too.
Oh, no doubt about it. When you live in hotels, you go from hotel to hotel for 4.5 months. It's all like a blur. It's like a blur. One hotel looks like the next and the next and the next, and you're just traveling from it's just going from one state to another, and it's just all becomes a blur.
I totally, because I understand some of that, even though I never tried to do quite as many as what you do. Now, you did a lot of different shows this year, and I know one of them that you did was the NRA's, Great American Outdoor Show there in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I did that show off and on for years, and then initially did some things there for the NRA as well, too. But how was that show this year? Is that show still as big as what it was and all those kind of things?
Yeah, Larry, it's the Super Bowl. It's heck, when I started guiding, it seems like 100 years ago. But when I started I started going to the Harrisburg show in 1983. And that's how long of course I was working for other outfitters at the time, and or just starting out really. I was just starting out guiding, with a license and stuff.
Right.
But since the NRA has purchased that show, it is bigger and better than it ever has, and it's run. John Bailey and crew run that show like clockwork. It's just
yes, sir.
It's a great show run by great people.
Well, it was always a fun show in a way, just simply because of the great number of people that you met. And my gosh, I can remember when I used to do it years ago that, we'd have to go do a seminar. Well, you'd have to leave an hour and a half before your seminar started if you were any distance from where you were going to give that seminar, simply because of the number of people that were there. It was like a slow moving lava crowd, of people going through. And I used to love to go there because of all the different people that you'd meet, but also the different stories that you heard. I remember, walking through there and somebody, hey, Larry, says, it's great meeting you, all this kind of stuff. And you go, start visiting a little bit. And next thing you know, you're hearing hunting stories about where they've been or where they want to go. And to me, that was always a big fun part of it, was just the people that you met there. What about some of the other shows? Now, I mean, there are shows going on, like you say, almost every other week. I know you're not going to probably do quite as many of them in the future, or maybe you will, but what are some of the other shows that you do and the ones that you might highly recommend to people who are not from that part of the country, that they might want to go to because they're more or less maybe a little bit more special to you?
Well, that's very true, and talking about, for one thing, before I move on to that, I remember you and me and Jim Zumbo going up to the cafeteria, just going up to the cafeteria that we hey, let's grab a bite to eat together. And of course, I always look forward to seeing you both, and it took us, we planned on taking an hour off, and it took us over an hour to get there, because you couldn't walk 20 feet without someone wanting your picture or just asking you questions or introducing yourself to you and Jim. I was just along for the ride, but it took us forever just to get up there. We ended up taking a couple hours off, never mind one. But that's how big Harrisburg is. It's just amazing. And the great thing about doing a show like that is you get to, I always look forward to seeing you and seeing Jim and seeing, Alan Probst and the other seminar, Eddie Salter and, all the great guys, Tony LaPratt, they get some great seminar speakers and you get to see a lot of old friends. In regards to newer shows or just other shows that I do, the Springfield, Massachusetts show at the Big E Fairgrounds in Massachusetts in February. That's a good show run by wonderful people, and another show, the old Field and Stream Outdoor Life Sportsmen's Expos are really good shows. They now call them the open season. They now call them the open season shows, some of them anyways, and they're good shows up in Wisconsin, and Wisconsin Dells, Wisconsin, and that's held at the Kalahari Resort, which is a huge facility, and that's a great show. And I think Larry, I was told by Brandon Seske, who runs the show, is a really great guy. I think they have like a 300 name waiting list just to buy booth space at that show.
Oh my goodness, yes.
It's just packed. And the Columbus, Ohio show, also an open season show. That's another great show. There's a lot of shows out there that and the thing of it is as it's just, it's how they're run. You know, some people run sportsman shows, you know, like fly by night, and they wonder why they don't grow. And then there's others that it's almost like they have it down to a science, and it just flows, and it just keeps getting better all the time.
Well, I think that latter group that you're talking about, they've got some absolutely fantastic people that they work with, and they've also found the number or the different speakers and booth types that will draw people, that will make people want to come. And of course, obviously, Randy Flannery is one of those people because of the great number of people who want to come talk to you and learn more about some of the things that you've done and have been involved in, particularly with some of the deer hunting. And we'll come back to that in just a little bit as well too. But we're recording this, ladies and gentlemen, just right the week before the NRA show, and both Randy and I are going to try to be there. Randy's going to be there, I think, most of the time, and then I'm going to try to be there Friday and Saturday to say hi and visit with him as much as I can, and then try to get a little business done as well too. But that show will have been done by the time that we finish this, or by the time this airs. But that too is a great show, and of course this year it will have been in Houston. And I know that's probably one of the reasons you're in Texas, but the other reason is I know that you really love this part of the world, and as we talked about earlier, so it's going to be a fun couple of days, I think.
Without a doubt, and you know, it's like I said, I can't emphasize enough how much Sharon and I love Texas, and we love Texans. You know, I mean, we got a lot of very dear friends here in Texas, and of course you and Mary Ann being at the top of the list, and Abe and Tori Napa, and just you know, just wonderful people. And you know, we're right here sitting at the gorgeous Triangle T Ranch in Granbury, and we just love it. And the fact that the NRA convention, which we get, you know, asked to do every year, and asked to speak as well, which is a great honor. Sharon and I are just tickled to death when it's in Texas, because we're always looking for. Put it this way, Larry, I'm standing at a 3-point stance ready to run for the truck when I think about going to Texas.
Well, we're so very glad that you're here, and of course we're glad the NRA is here as well too. Let's talk a little bit about hunting, if you will. It was an interesting year across the world as far as I was concerned, including here. And whereas when we were up there with you in Maine, you had gone through a severe, very horrible drought, and there really wasn't a whole lot of food available. Here in Texas, on some of the places that I got to hunt, we had one of the most fantastic acorn crops we've ever had, to where we had too much food, to where the distance between the bedding area and the feeding area was however far that deer, when he's laying down, could reach with his mouth to pick up acorns. And, you know, the old deal of you want to get between the bedding area and the feeding area, you'd have been straddled that deer in that instance, kind of thing. But when we left, you know, y'all were getting ready to go do some serious deer hunting. And how did your deer season go as a result of, with some of the drought that you experienced going into the fall?
Well, that's a great question. And as far as down here in Texas with the acorns, we were up in Lipan looking at a gorgeous ranch that Triangle T is looking at, and yesterday, and just going through the property, and it's in them. I think they call them the Comanche Hills. I mean, it's beautiful country, and the acorns were everywhere, and I'm like, holy smokes! I'm like, this is unbelievable. You know, they were everywhere. You couldn't go anywhere without stepping on them. You know, so yeah, it's unbelievable. But getting back to the drought was the worst in Maine's history, to my knowledge. I personally never seen it. And you remember when, you know, you and I and Abe, you know, we all went out with two of our guides, Mike and Dennis, out on East Grand Lake. You could see you could see on East Grand, we're talking about a lake with over 450 miles of shoreline, but you could see not only on our lake, but you could really see it on East Grand because of them giant boulders, that the lake level was 5.5 feet below normal. 5.5 feet.
The reason I'm laughing is because we would pull up to some exposed boulders, and you guys would go, well, we used to catch fish right at the top of those boulders. So I said, you mean the water was that much deeper, right? And they go, absolutely. You could see how much was exposed. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I've never seen it, and it affected. And you came up with a fantastic question that a lot of people who don't read the woods, who don't read being a hunter and an experienced hunter is more than just pulling the trigger. You've got to be a bit of a meteorologist. You got to be able to not only read the animals but read the woods. There's no substitute for good old-fashioned woodsmanship and knowledge of animal behavior. That comes down to being a good guide and a good woodsman. And the drought affected everything. It affected moose season. I remember this past October sending you some pictures. Of course, you and I we communicate a lot, and which is just so you know, you're one of my dearest friends, and I love appreciate
it. Same way here.
I appreciate you so much. But you remember me sending you pictures of dry, cracked ground where I sent them to you where I was trying to call in moose. And Larry, that's a place where I was standing, where the water would be up to my chin. Normally, it would be literally 5.5 feet deep there, and I'm standing on dry, cracked ground. Heck, I'd be thinking I'd be down in South Texas. You know what I mean? It was so dried and cracked. I'm like, holy cow, But it affected everything. The moose hunt and the moose kill, and as you and I had talked about before, that was down. I mean, the deer kill. I truly believe when it comes to deer hunting this past year, if you did not know how to go after them, you were not going to be shooting many deer.
Right.
And because we do not only know how to go after them, we teach it. And another thing I wanted to mention, just thought of, is our deer tracking and stalking school that, we literally, my son Scott and I literally take people one-on-one on a learn to track and stalk hunt. And it's where it's become so popular because of the success we've had. We started doing deer tracking and stalking schools again, and they're just a big let me just say this: the people that we started doing one last year for the first time since COVID started, and it sold out in just a few days, and to the point where we literally, the response has been so great. People been really asking us to do it. We're doing 3 this year, and the calls are just coming in left and right because people want to learn how to go after them. And in the case of the drought, if you didn't know how to go after deer, the people that were ambush hunting, they really, unfortunately, Larry, they had a hard time because the drought affected everything.
Yeah, no doubt. I was kind of hidden in that direction. I wanted you to talk a little bit about that. And you talk about woodsmanship. The thing about hunting in your part of the world as opposed to down here in Texas, so very often most of our guys between you and me, whoever's listening, they're shooters. Over the years, we have taken gun and optics and those kind of things to a technology where what used to be between the hunter's ears pretty much now is at their fingertips. But when you get into situations such as what you hunt in, to where you have the thick woods, and that includes a lot of other people that have those kind of similar type of hunting situations or habitat situations, there you have to know some woodsmanship. Not only do you know how to track that deer, if you're so fortunate to take that deer, now you got to figure out how to find your way back to where you started from, or to a point to where that deer can be picked up. And how do you get that deer there? So there's a lot of that goes into all this, what you're talking about as well, too, with your school as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. We cover all the bases, for being prepared, right down to what the essentials are, which, like you and I know, isn't taught anymore. And good shooting, although it's very important to be a good shot, but good shooting will never trump good woodsmanship skills. And Larry, I'm working on a book, and when I get it finished, you'll be the first to know. But I do a thing in that book about the importance I write in that book. I have several chapters of the importance of woodsmanship skills, and I asked you a couple of years ago if you would do me the honor of allowing me to write about you in that book. And for the simple fact is, a lot of people are not adaptable, and you got to be adaptable. You got to adapt to you got to adapt to the terrain as well as the animal you're hunting. And I've spent a lot of time in Texas, and whether you're on foot or horseback, Texas is one of them states where you have giant expanses of land, and if you're not good, and I emphasize this in the book where I'm writing about you, where let me just say this: I know what type of woodsman you are because I've known you for 40 years, and and appreciate and respect the woodsmanship skills because your dad saw to that. And that's what's missing today, being a good woodsman. And if you're hunting giant pieces of ground, whether it's giant pieces of woods like northern Maine that go on forever, as you know, or you're hunting giant ranch country where you got all them cedars and all them, you get into them thick areas going after these deer or whatever you're hunting down here, you better be good with your woodsmanship skills. You better know your map and compass, and you better, because anybody can get into somewhere. It's getting out. They really need to know,
You're exactly right about that. Randy, you're reading my mind. It's like I've got a list of things I want to talk about, and you're one step ahead of me on all this. I want to go back, and since we talked about your book, where are you on your book? Because, ladies and gentlemen, this guy has got so much knowledge and so much experience, and not only his own experience, but the experience of his grandfather and going back that way, and the guides that he deals with, and all the hunters. Randy, I can't wait to see the finished product. So, where are you as far as, do you think, in terms of this book being finished, where it can be released? And I am so truly honored to write the foreword on this. You have no earthly idea.
Well, you have no earthly idea how honored I am for you to write the foreword, and you would absolutely. I had you in mind to ask you from the time I'm not kidding you, Larry, from the time Field and Stream and Outdoor Life started telling me, you need to write a book, and that was 20 years ago. You were the first person in mind
oh, my gracious.
For me.
I truly am honored.
Well, I'm the one who's honored, believe me. But also, my dear friend Larry Weishuhn advised me to, because as you know, I was writing a book on tracking and stalking whitetails, and you advised me to break it up and do a book on stalking whitetails and then a book on tracking whitetails, so you're not throwing so much at once at someone, and which is sound wisdom, something that I struggle with sometimes. and as far as me being one step ahead of you, Larry, there's a first.
No, I know that's happened numerous times, by golly. Oh my gracious!
But no, we've had an awful busy winter, and we've had some family, sadness. We had a death in the family, and our grandson had heart surgery, which is so I literally. The book has been on hold since January because we've had, between the shows, the seminars, and everything else. But I'm to a point where I'm going to be getting right after it shortly, and I hope to have it. I hope to have it finished by the end of the summer.
Oh, fantastic!
That's my goal. That's my goal. But in the meantime, I'll send you some stuff to look at.
Perfect. And all that said, I know you, like I am a strong believer in prayer. And so I would ask people out there, I know that your grandson is facing some more surgeries down the way. I would ask them to please include your grandson and all your family in their prayers, and to all that works out really well. We know it's going to, but at the same time, please say a few prayers on behalf of Randy and his grandson.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're more than welcome. It's family, by golly, when you get right down to it.
Absolutely.
Randy, let's go back to the deer hunting, and have you recovered, and the bear hunting, or what, or the hunting as a whole? Because, and even the fishing, because when I was there, we'd be crossing what you had told me. I'd look out there and it'd be dry ground. And you said, Larry, had you been here any other time, we'd have been fishing for trout in that stream, or we'd look at a beaver pond and it would be maybe, I don't know how big it was beginning with, but there may be, maybe 100 square feet of water where it looked like it'd been a whole lot more at one time. So have you recovered some with the rains and snowfall and that kind of thing moving forward now with all that?
We've recovered some, Larry, but I can't believe that we've even recovered half of what we should be, because number one, thank God we got some rain in October, November, December. Right. We got some rain, and in December we got some snow, but unfortunately, good for the deer herd, by the way, but not getting a lot of snow. But
right.
I don't believe we've never, and my son Scott keeps us posted and our guides keep us posted, but I don't believe that we had more than a foot of snow at any one time this whole winter up in Maine, which is very, 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 usually very, very rare. But actually this has been like the 7th or 8th mild winter in a row. And when I say mild winter, that's 3 feet or less.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But so it's been wonderful for the deer herd. But as far as resaturating that ground, helping the water table and helping the waterways, I'm sure that I know, thank God, that our water levels are up.
Right.
But they would have to be because they were so low. But I don't believe we've reached more than half of where we need to be. So
Oh my goodness.
We still need, I'm hoping for spring rains. Now my son Scott, he calls every day where we call him, and he said that it's been raining like heck the last 3 or 4 days, thank God, which is that's a good thing. So, everything where there's water, there's life, and you gotta have it.
You're very true. I tell people, somebody asks about Texas, and my response is always the same. Texas is a very thirsty state, and we will take moisture any time of the year. And the weather patterns seem to have changed a little bit over the years, but hopefully we were really dry in South Texas and parts of West Texas. I was out there not too terribly long ago, and I think they're finally starting to get a little bit of rain. So hopefully things will start coming back, and hopefully those 3 or 4 days of rain will not necessarily turn into 40, but let's hope they turn into about 33 or 34 in your part of the country and replenish a lot of that water. Because, again, it was amazing when we were fishing. I mean, we would be fishing and we'd be getting up to some rocks that were exposed, and, the guys were saying, hey, we used to fish on top of those rocks, so it had come down that far. And again, it just amazed me. I'd spent a little time in Maine years ago, particularly with the Thompson Center guys, and oh gosh, all the great guys I dealt with up there, kicking around a lot all over the Katahdin Iron Works, the KI, and the Millinocket area, and all that area. And, seeing the beaver ponds and the trout streams, and then to go up there and be with you when we were there last September, looking at bare ground where I would have suspected there had been water, kind of changed things around a little bit. So hopefully all that will start correcting itself. Next question, where are you headed next? I mean, you're in Texas, the NRA show's coming up. And again, by the time this airs, the NRA show will have passed, and we know it's going to be a great show. But what do you got planned for the summer and then going into the early fall? I know y'all will start getting real busy here for too very long. Again, just getting in preparation of the upcoming hunting seasons and the fall seasons you got coming up.
Yeah, exactly. And, of course, after the NRA convention next week or this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, this week. After that, we're going to spend, the first thing we're going to do is spend some time with our grandkids. We're going to, of course, Larry, we feel like we're part of the team as far as the NRA convention, because I want to do everything I can to help the NRA as much as we can. They're in the trenches fighting for us every day, and I'll tell you, I'm honored to be part of it. I've been invited to several leadership meetings with the NRA brass, and I'll tell you, I just wanted to point out that we're in good hands. I'll tell you, Doug Hamlin and Bill Bockenberg and Mark Vaughn, they are rock solid. Our NRA leadership is the best that I've ever seen, and they're just rock solid. They really and truly are, and I'm honored to be able to help out in any small capacity that they need me to do. With that said, when we're over, we're going to bring Sharon's flying out on Saturday. So I'll be driving to the farm in North Carolina by myself on Sunday after it's over. But Sharon's flying up to Maine to pick up our grandkids, and we're bringing them down to North Carolina for a week. Cool. So we can't wait for that. So, and then after that, we'll be heading home and hit the ground running, getting the docks in and the boat serviced. And I gotta build a porch on that new cabin that you saw.
And that is going to be. It was so nice when we were there, and I can only imagine what it's going to be like when you get that porch on it.
Yeah, exactly. And it all starts. I got a very small window when the time I get home to get all the outboard motors serviced and the docks in the water and get everything shined up, and then right soon as June hits, several of our guides, they start into the woods we start, believe it or not, we start in June to be prepared for the fall hunting season. So it's a 6-day-a-week gig in the woods, being prepared for the fall hunting seasons. So, if you don't utilize that time, June through August, just to be ready for when the bear season starts, because you don't have a lot of time to get prepared once it does start. So, it's a big undertaking, the whole summer long to be prepared for the fall. And I'm not a technology guy, as you know. I mean, I don't let my guides put out trail cameras until they've been in the woods for at least 6 weeks or more, because I want them to know what's out there already. So there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work, but it's using your brain. That's the most important hunting tool you have, is your brain.
Thank you. I totally agree. It gets back to, like we were talking about earlier, I get tickled because so many people, particularly when it comes to deer, and to some extent bear, I think, as well, too, and I seem to rely totally on trail cameras. And that can be fun. I'll be honest with you. With me, I've got places that I hunt where they use trail cameras, but when somebody says, let me show you something, I go, let's look at these after the hunt's over with. Put me in an area that you think you have some deer or whatever, and then let me handle it from there. That to me is the part of hunting that I enjoy, and it comes back to, there's only so much that you can put at your fingertips that works. There's got to be that brain of yours, of whoever is out there hunting. That still, as you mentioned, is the most important tool out there. And since we mentioned the brain, I hope people use their brain to become more involved with the NRA, to become members of NRA and supporters of NRA. That you're exactly right. They do so much for us out here. Those of us who love the outdoors and who own guns and who support the right to own and possess guns, and the leadership that's there. I've had a chance to visit with Doug one-on-one and some of the other guys as well too, and I feel the same way as you do. This group that we have right now is by far the best we've had, and that I can remember. And I go back with the NRA a long, long time, been a life member there, and for years was on the Great American Hunters Tour and all those other kind of things as a speaker as well too. So this is the best group I think that we've had, and for all whatever, please support the NRA. So thank you for doing what you're doing there, and thank you for pushing them as well too. We're all in this together, as you well know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if everybody just did a small bit of help, it would be so much greater, because what you're doing is you're protecting our constitutional rights. That's what you're doing.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many reasons for us to own guns in the current world that we live in. I think it becomes even more important to be an NRA member and to support that right to offer all of us here in the U.S. particularly. So, Randy, I know you've got stuff you have got to do. Unfortunately, my schedule this spring is absolutely ridiculous. I will be at the NRA show Friday. I will look you up as soon as I get there or give you a call, and hopefully a lot of other folks who have listened to this or will be listening to this will have been there at the NRA show with us as well. But for somebody that wants to get in touch with you, particularly regarding hunts, and you guys do some fabulous fishing, as I found out. Y'all were apologizing for the fish that we were not catching, but my gosh, I think 60 smallmouth bass that one day.
Yeah.
And if y'all are complaining about that, I can only imagine what it's like when it's like it's supposed to be. So
exactly.
So how do people get in touch with you? And then I'm going to come back and we're going to visit more about the book as well too, because I cannot wait. I've listened to your stories. I've listened to some of your seminars and all that kind of thing. And I know how personal you are in so many different ways on a one-on-one basis with people, even though there may be 1,000 people in there. Everybody thinks, and you are speaking to them directly, individually, kind of thing. So I want to come back to the book thing in the future and a few other things. But again, how do people get in touch with you?
Well, Wilderness Escape Outfitters, and our phone number is 207-448-3238, and our website is wildernessescape.com.
Fantastic. Randy, I do need to remind everybody that can to come to the DSC Summer Expo, which will be July 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th at the Gaylord Texan Resort there in Stephenville, Texas. And the night of the 25th, we'll have our DSC Foundation Gala, which is a fundraiser. And last year, our organization, our foundation, granted a little over $1 million, and with the help of everybody involved, we'll try to do the same thing. We're going to have some unbelievable hunts. They can go to onlinehuntingauctions.com a little bit later as we approach that July date and see all the great items there. But thank you so much for your support in the past of the DSC Foundation, and can't wait to see you down in Houston, and then we'll get together. We'll make some plans right there, and then we'll get together back here on the DSC Campfire podcast in the very near future.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Randy. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us right back here next week. Thank you so very much for being with us this week.
DSC's Campfires with Larry Weishuhn has also been brought to you by The Crown Bar in LaGrange, Texas, the Texas Wildlife Association, Double Nickel Taxidermy, and Burnham Brothers Game Calls.